What's going on, gamers? Sony confirms another aspect of removing PlayStation support from PC and Steam. Now, there are some people saying that yesterday, Nishino didn't say it straight up that no PlayStation games will ever come to PC again. He's just basically saying we want to focus on hardware. But it's quite obvious what he was saying, right? Does that mean that he's doing that so he could say that in the future, just in case, we still may choose a game here and there to come to PC if we want to? Like people were saying, maybe a SARS or something. That's maybe possible, but from what it's looking like, that's not in the plans. Right here, though, is another confirmation about things here. Become a member, leave a tip down below, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Sony has quietly replaced PC with AI. Key word here. You know, I used to be like PlayStation games on PC, PlayStation PC. They were doing all those setups back then when people thought that there was going to be Spider-Man coming to Xbox and all that. They were all delusional, right? Let's expose that again. Remember all those people when Insomniac made that tweet? They thought Spider-Man was coming to Xbox and Sony's doing all this and that, when really it was about live service and Helldivers. And they were, you know, churning up all that, which all that got shut down recently, as we knew, right? Now we get the idea of not only what Nishino said, but also what Jason said prior to that in this right here. Sony replaces PC with AI in its latest annual report's PlayStation business description. Now, when I see this right here, let me tell you exactly what I'm going to see here. Sony wants to speed up development, but they don't want to interfere with the quality of development for mediocre tasks. And the amount of money that they made on PC was only 1.5%. But if PlayStation can strengthen the identity of PlayStation 6 and the rest of the PS5 generation leading into PlayStation 6, to have that identity be even more stronger because it's only in that ecosystem, and speed up development and not waste so much money using extra resources when the AI can do it, they'll save the same amount of money instead of spending that amount of money, basically voiding out what PC support would do, on top of still continuing to get support from multiplayer games like Helldivers and stuff like that, live service games. You see what I mean? Think about it in that context. A lot of people want to do this. Are you using it in the right way? Not hurting your development to give people AI slop, but more about assisting and managing and doing better. And I think this is the way that PlayStation is doing it. It's just something that needs to be talked about here. Just right in that little description right there. Replacing PC with AI, because now they have no reason to focus on single player games and Naughty Dog games that cost so much money and all this other stuff. We knew they were getting upset at Naughty Dog and other studios because they said games were taking too long to release now. So how can we speed up this process without hurting our development? Well, for like I said, miscellaneous tasks and semi-miscellaneous, a little bit out of that, we need to use AI to help us do this, to shed off like a year and a half of development. So instead of the game taking 5 years, it could be 3.5 years. Instead of 6 years, it could be 4 years, or a little bit over 4. That's a lot better. So think about that. The move has sparked backlash over the company's future priorities. Well, here's the thing. I don't think much is going to change. PlayStation is still going to be PlayStation. But we got two tweets right here to look at, and this is going to be very interesting. The updated wording indicating AI is becoming a bigger part of Sony's long-term plans. Then you ask, what does that really mean, though? We're going to get into this, because this is why we need to get into the details before people try to jump in and manipulate and be grifters, of course, too. But this is not what's going on. It's not the same as Xbox feeding an AI world and making gaming way more expensive. The PlayStation world is totally different. Sony has said it sees AI as a tool, which it is, to help developers, not replace them. So it's not coming in there to get rid of developers. This is one of the most important things to realize. It's not trying to replace the human being, because it doesn't have a human soul, and it's not creative. It can't do that. It doesn't have light inside of it like that. It's whatever you make it do. That's why you call it machine learning. Big difference here, right? It's not AI hires. It wants to help developers, not replace them. Key motto here. If we were doing a meeting right here, I'd tell people in the boardroom, marker, help developers, not replace them. This is something that is very important and needs to be understood, right? And the Xbox world is totally different. They can't help developers in any way. All they do is buy them, monopolize them, ruin them, and what they had, they ruin that, and they sell it off. They just can't do anything right. They tanked out everything, put games to die on an all-you-can-eat buffet service, and then trap it in an ecosystem when an exclusive costs $400 to $500 million, and skip out on the biggest third-party advertisement in the industry when you're trying to do that. It's like, yeah, they don't know what they're doing. The company is using AI to speed up tasks only according to them. That's what I mean. Nobody wants to wait for somebody to sit here and do this. It could take months when the AI could do it in like maybe a couple of days or a week. If you do that consistently for 2 years, guess how much time you have saved? You probably saved 2 years of time. You see what I mean? Then things are better. So here it is again. The company is using AI to speed up tasks only according to them. One internal tool called Mockingbird can turn performance capture data into facial animations in seconds instead of hours. See, this is what I mean. So instead of just taking me hours and hours to do, I've done it in seconds. Now my developers can get to the most important things. You're not doing writing though. This is just basic stuff for maybe an NPC or something. It's just kind of like a random NPC you run across in a crowd somewhere, like on a Cyberpunk game or something. You know what I mean? You're helping me with facial animations. Stuff like that. Sony is also exploring other AI projects, including patents for personalized podcasts featuring PlayStation characters. You know, stuff like that is cool. You know what I mean? It's like, that's cool. So this gives you the idea of what they're trying to do with AI here. Then we got another post that goes into deep detail. The William guy, who I kind of think is funny. I think he's more emotional than Nev, I think, at this point, because it's funny stuff. But we're going to see some comments down here, which are actually going to get interesting. Then we're going to go to the next thread. I wish they would use AI to make NPCs and enemies smarter. Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to stuff like that, it's not too bad. But main character, direction, main writing, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Main art. No. That needs to be human. Producing all that. Like, AI's not doing that. It's just going to help with the miscellaneous tasks and help with a lot of things. Kojima said he's used it a lot in some of his games, but it will never replace him or be in the lead. It's going to be in the back as a support unit. It should always be like that, no matter what. The moment you start sacrificing your integrity, your intelligence, and all that, then you have completely lost the plot and you're lost. So this guy says, including patents for personalized podcasts featuring PlayStation characters. I'm sure all of the SAG-AFTRA voice actors and Hollywood boys they keep hiring for their games are going to be really excited about this one. We're going to think this is going to go into the DEI stuff. Wishing that they would use AI to replace the good-for-nothing DEI hires that's bloating the industry. Well, Sony's firing a lot of that California stuff the moment they got in there. Stuff we just need to not worry about anymore is get rid of Fair Game, shut down Heaven Studios. I don't know about the Horizon Gatherings game. It looks mid and whatever else is left over. I think all that stuff is pretty much over with. Just get back to making really good video games. AI is a tool. It should be the tool of doers and taskmasters, not of leadership to skull up their workers with. Yeah, exactly. But they didn't say that they were replacing or screwing over workers. So I understand what this guy is saying. That actually kind of makes sense. Now, let's go over to the next post to go more into an update. Sony 2026 annual report, full highlights relating to the G&NS SIE, Sony Interactive Entertainment, PlayStation Business segment. Sony officially removing porting first-party single-player games to PC from their strategy. Previous version 2025. Sony plans to continue its efforts to deploy its first-party titles to multiple platforms, such as PC. New versions 2026. Regarding Sony's first-party game software, Sony aims to create a stable base of revenue through consistent annual releases of single-player games, which have traditionally been its core strength. The core of PlayStation is the console. That's pretty obvious. What Jason said recently yesterday too, confirming that, and what Nishino said, and what they just did, removing PC. PlayStation has continued to be successful, and I told you they want to focus on hardware and hardware loyalty. So my games are for my hardware. The operating performance of the G&NS segment for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2026 reflected steady growth in revenues from network services and game software sales, benefiting from the expanded install base of PlayStation 5, with operating income reaching a record high for the segment. So no matter what people could say about Sony this generation, they made more money than any other console in history, PlayStation-wise. Nintendo's going to be making records too. Xbox is doing worse than ever. So Sony has already did that in their 5th year. I remember them saying that. Wait till GTA launches along with the rest of this year and next year. You see what I mean? So when you really think about that, this generation is the most beneficial PlayStation generation in history because of microtransactions and all this other stuff. But they missed a golden window where it could have been a pure golden generation if they wouldn't have did that live service gas rush and Jim Ryan wouldn't have messed up everything. But they recovered. That's the thing, you see? PlayStation is not in the sinkhole. PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium are not on PC. PlayStation single-player games didn't go to PC day and date. PlayStation single-player games did not go to Xbox. It's a huge difference here. And even in all those mess ups, PlayStation still was able to get that money back through PC through that 1.5 billion or 1.6 billion they made. See, Sony has it good, and they're still going to sell 100 plus million. Them and Nintendo cannot be killed off. They know what they're doing. This is something that is a difference between those worlds and the Xbox worlds, because these companies are significantly more intelligent than Microsoft when it comes to gaming. It's not an argument, it's a realization. PlayStation will maintain and create new second-party partners to increase the output of first and second-party games and non-first-party game software, in addition to maintaining and strengthening relationships with third-party studios in order to continue to benefit from the stable revenue contribution of major franchise titles. So we see contribution of major franchise titles. Sony plans to continue its efforts to support creators in order to promote the development of new hit titles, because they support creators. Low, medium, high, indie, low, medium, high, AA. And not like Microsoft, they know how to build and raise up. Nintendo's the best at it, period, though. PlayStation will allow devs to use AI to help supplement their workload on menial and repetitive tasks without removing their artistic vision. This is what we were talking about before. You see what I mean? This is a different way. This is the right way to use it. There's a right way to use AI, and there's a wrong way to use AI. And a lot of people were doing it the wrong way. Don't get me started with Unreal Engine 5. Don't get me started with NVIDIA. You need a 4080 or 4090 and optimize it from the highest level and screw over the bottom denominator. It should have been the opposite way. You see? That's using AI the wrong way, taking shortcuts with fake frames and not optimizing, giving you raw rasterization improvements. It's been done this whole generation, and it screwed up a lot of this generation. Sony is utilizing AI to unleash the creativity of studios and further enhance the PlayStation experience. Within the studio business, Sony aims to improve productivity through the use of AI-powered tools, allowing development teams to reinvest their time into building richer worlds and gameplay experiences. In the platform business, Sony is working to leverage AI to route transactions more efficiently and to personalize and recommend content for individual users in the PlayStation Store. Do we see this here? Sony aims to push visual fidelity forward and deliver higher quality gameplay experiences through continued investments in AI and machine learning. You know what that means, like frame generation, multi-frame generation, PSSR 3, that's AI, you know what I mean? And that's helped. PSSR 2 is amazing. See, that's when you can use AI the right way. Within the studio business, AI-powered tools are automating repetitive workflows and improving productivity across areas such as software development, quality assurance, 3D modeling, and animation, allowing production teams to focus on building richer worlds and gameplay experience. They said nothing about direction, nothing about writing and storytelling. You see what I mean? The important stuff that should not be touched, it should come from the heart and the soul. So you ain't gonna have Xbox fanboys try to spin this so that they can try to cope and make it seem like PlayStation is in the same, ain't in any category at all. No, AGN is giving you the real deal on this. Sony will continue to make new movies, TV shows, and multimedia experiences based on PlayStation IPs. So we know they're gonna keep doing that, and they're gonna monetize and reach and expand the monetization of its IP. Sony has and will continue mergers, investments, and acquisitions. So they're not done with that. I don't mind Sony doing that because they know what they're doing. For the benefit of PlayStation and other segments, Sony actively engages in acquisitions, joint ventures, capital expenditures, and other strategic investments to acquire new technologies, efficiently develop new businesses, and enhance its business competitiveness. So expect the money having and more going on. For example, in the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025, Sony acquired additional shares of Kadokawa Corporation. In the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2026, Sony acquired shares of Bandai Namco and acquired an additional equity interest in Peanut Holdings LLC. So you see stuff like that. And when they say this, they're not just talking about just PlayStation. They're talking about anime, music, TV shows, not just in that field. Just to like highlight that for you guys. Sony reiterates its commitment to creating high quality content, games, and product consoles to compete. Consoles. So there's not going to just be a PS6. There's going to be something else too. Sony believes that its product planning and product design expertise, the high quality of its products, its record of innovative product introduction and product improvements, the user experience it provides, and the ecosystem that supports such an experience. Its price competitiveness derived from reductions in manufacturing and indirect costs, and its extensive marketing and servicing efforts are important factors in maintaining its competitive position. Continuing to provide high-value added products, services, and experiences is a key factor by which Sony aims to differentiate itself in these highly competitive markets. Sony believes that the success of G and NS business is determined by the availability of attractive software and related content, downloadable content, network services, and peripherals. Sony also aims to push visual fidelity forward and deliver higher quality gameplay experience. They're going to continue into research and development as well and try to get that going. And then regarding PlayStation's new policy towards PC, like we said, it is now confirmed that PlayStation will no longer bring their first-party games to PC. However, smaller AA games, second-party games, experimental games, and multiplayer live service games may still come to PC. So when you say something outside of the first party, it could be something like Kena. They're bringing Kena to PC. They're bringing Marvel Fighting Token to PC. That's not a live service game, but it's a fighting game that has single-player and multiplayer aspects. They decided to include it. So Sony will still do that. I never said they weren't going to do that. I said they're just not bringing their tentpole, like tentpole, like Last of Us, Uncharted, stuff like that. But they're not bringing that to PC. Ghost of Yotei, that type of stuff. So timeline of events, we kind of get the idea. In 2026, it reported that PlayStation was pulling back their strategy towards PC, and the PC port for Ghost of Yotei was canceled. In May 2026, it was reported that PlayStation Studio Group CEO Herman Host held an internal town hall meeting with all PlayStation devs announcing that they were not going to be porting first-party single-player games to PC, and all ports currently in the works have been canceled. June 2026. Nishino, what he just said, for single-player games developed in-house, we will further refine the value of the gaming experience that PlayStation can offer. PlayStation is not on PC anymore. And it's not a PC thing. It's got consoles. At the same time, we believe it is important for live service games to reach a wider audience through online multiplayer so we can continue to view releases on both PC and PlayStation 5 as a standard. See, when he said live service, he included it. When he said single player, the PC was not mentioned. In other words, in order to refine the value of, aka increase the value of PlayStation consoles, you need more exclusives, and he is drawing a distinction of categories between first-party single player and first-party multiplayer games. That's not hard to understand. PlayStation 5, first-party exclusives. PlayStation Live Service multiplayer, PC and PlayStation 5. And then June, Jason Schreier responded by reporting, I guess they're not going to lay this out publicly, but there's no ambiguity in their strategy. During a town hall meeting a weeks ago, Herman Host told the staff that their single-player narrative games would be PlayStation only. He explained that they were inconsistent with their PC releases. They didn't make enough money, and they didn't want to keep their IPs aligned to their own platform. And they want to, keep their IPs. Confirmed this with two people who heard him say, there's no case by case here. And then in June, Sony released their annual report today, which is targeted mostly towards current and potential investor shareholders, and all mentions of porting their games to PC were no longer present, like they were in the annual reports for previous years. But PlayStation wanted to focus on selling their upcoming PS6 console. They realized the value of using exclusives to incentivize consumer demand. The door to porting their first-party single-player games to PC is shut. However, the window may be cracked open just in case. Yeah, that I could see that. Like I said, for games like Kena and stuff, because that's not a multiplayer game, and maybe something else. There's a possibility, but it's very low. But right now, it's really about getting that PS6 launch going. So this is not hard to understand. We kind of get the idea here. And man, he's very emotional for PlayStation. Look how he does something. Sony, go ahead and hire him. That type of stuff to me is funny. But yeah, guys, I mean, they're making it quite clear here. You're not going to be seeing PlayStation games ever come to Xbox, because they're not coming to Steam, and Sony never focused on that anyways. So Xbox Helix is in a situation to where we don't even know if it's going to launch now. Who knows what Microsoft will do by that time? We still have a ways to go to figure that out. I think there's restructuring going on and a lot of doubting, and I don't blame you. So let me know what you guys think about this. Leave a comment down below as usual. Like, comment, subscribe, become a member. It's only $3. Thanks for all the support. Xbox fanboys. Later.